It's Friday afternoon, just afternoon, and I'm talking. It's my conversations with Deborah, bi-coastal. I keep on thinking every time I say that I want to do bilingual. But sometimes we do speak a different language.
No, we don't. And that's what we need to talk about. It is Friday and it is December the 8th. And
It's
this
January 8th,
January the 8th, pardon me.
2021.
Horrific. It's been a horrific, crazy, scary time this week. It truly has been. And I'm glad that we got a chance to talk because we may be coming from different political viewpoints, Malcolm, but if normal people like us can come to some positive conclusions, then I think there is some strong hope for this country. If we can't, I hesitate to say where we're going. Um, I did not watch a lot of what happened on Wednesday. As I told you, my husband and I went off and did all the normal things that normal people do during a day. We had to get some chicken feed for our girls, and we decided to go up to Caesar's Head and have a little picnic and a little walk and what have you. South Carolina is not closed down because of COVID, so we had an opportunity to be able to enjoy things and what have you. When we got back, it was when the rioters were on the Capitol steps. And I do say rioters at this point right now because that's exactly what they were. Those were not Trump supporters, those were rioters. And as soon as they breached the Capitol doors, they became rioters. And unfortunately, the message was overwhelmed. As many people, were completely disgusted by it. And I am pleased to see that there are, what, 53 arrests that happened? Is that
Yeah,
what happened?
something, but many more to come.
Good. I'm glad. And these people need to be prosecuted. The thing that does concern me at this point right now is that there was outcry against this breach of the Capitol building, which should have never happened. And terrible criticism of it, and there should be terrible criticism of it. These people need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, as everybody said. But I'm hearing more criticism of breaching of the Capitol steps, and yet I was hearing crickets when it came to any of the summer rioting that took place. It started with the George Floyd peaceful protests, and it evolved into the riots that we saw in Minneapolis and in Portland and in Seattle. And all of that was labeled as a summer of love. It was not a summer of love. It was as heinous as what happened on Wednesday when the Capitol was breached. And we need to all realize that and to condemn it for what it is. Indeed, was it appeared to be a peaceful, quote unquote, peaceful protest on Wednesday with the Trump supporters very concerned about election and the situation involving the election. And they had every reason to be able to do a peaceful protest. But it devolved into a riot as soon as they breached the Capitol steps. Same situation with George Floyd. It was a peaceful protest until it devolved into people setting fire to businesses and shooting people. Same thing with Portland, same thing with Seattle. You can burn your own house. You can certainly do that, but don't burn my house. That's the way I look at it.
Well, two things. Number one, they weren't rioting in Portland. They were, I mean, let's say they were rioting in Portland on the other instances, but this is not the the capital in Washington. This is more symbolic. Trump went into a whole tirade when there's one football player who during the national anthem went down on one knee in protest. This is one football player going on the one knee, and he thought this was defaming the U.S. and the flag, and wasn't proper, and he should have been fired, and the National Football League should be embarrassed and ashamed. But here are a group of people, I don't know how many thousands of people, who invaded the Capitol building, invaded the Senate, invaded the House of Representatives. And I haven't heard anything and again, it's not like Portland or the other states. This is a symbol of American democracy.
Mhm.
And they invaded there. Now, who were these people? You say they weren't Trump protesters. Well, who went on the steps?
We don't know. We honestly don't know. And once again, I think we need to wait for the evidence. The arrestees, we'll find out exactly who they are. And I think painting everyone as being Trump supporters is a misdeed. You need to find out and wait for the evidence to find out exactly who these people are. But once again, this is a situation where you cannot ignore 74 to 80 million people who voted for President Trump. There are still concerns with these people, and to ignore them is foolish. We need to come. No, it's not about Trump, Malcolm. It's not about Trump. It's about all of us having a voting system that we trust in. I can think that the Trump supporters, if they felt that the voting system was done correctly with voter ID, with correct identification and not duplicate ballots going off to everybody, with unpurged voter registration rolls, with suitcases being rolled in at the dead of night in Atlanta, all of these various types of things, they have questions about it, whether or not, and I don't care about the profundity of the courts and et cetera, but you have 74 to 80 million people that are questioning this. You've got to address these issues.
Do you think these people who question it would be questioning if Trump hadn't made a last minute or a last ditch effort to question, to bring up all these things, to do a 24-hour tweets on that saying how corrupt the system is and how he got screwed out and he actually won and he was the big winner and he was in a landslide and he'd been doing this 24/7 for, since the election? Do you think that there would be as many people that would be up in arms about it if he didn't do that? If he's the one that says it's a screwed system? He started this. Well, number one, when he was first elected in the 2016, he said, if I lose, it's rigged. He happened to win. And now he said before the election started in October, he said, I cannot lose. If I lose, it's because it's a rigged system. And he was going through all the things that could happen. But yet, when the votes were counted and he lost, and he is the only one that started stirring up the pot. Granted, even if it's a straight thing, there are 72 million people that voted for him, but there were like 80 million people. Let's say the election was legal, for the sake of argument, that everything was straight, that it was only the normal, problems with the election. There was still Biden was still elected by a majority. Now, if it was a majority of one, he would still be president-elect. The only thing that started now, Trump had his day in court. He had his day in the different legislatures of the states, where he went there, he brought all his evidence. The courts turned him down. And he can't say, because these people were anti-Trump people. There were people that were, the judges were appointed by Trump. The legislatures I know in Georgia, I'm not sure, Nevada, were Republican. They weren't for the Democrats. They were Republican people. They even say now they were still Republicans. They may not vote for Trump, but they're Republicans. Why, after all of this? And again, he had his day in court. It's not that he did. Then he went to the people. This is known as, when you go to the people for that, that's known as mob rule. I don't know, did you hear his speech? Number one, he's the one for 2 weeks or 3 weeks before, he's the one to tell the people to come out and protest. He's the one that made the people, he's the one that advertised it. This is a protest.
What's wrong with protesting? That's one of our rights.
Did you hear that speech on Wednesday?
No, I didn't. Once again, I'm going on with my life, and I did not
Okay.
listen to it.
Okay,
I heard bits
do me a
and pieces
favor,
of it.
see if you can get a copy of the speech and hear him speak to the crowd. He was like a rebel rouser. He was saying, rah, 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 let's go out, let's change it. The Republican people are weak. The vice president, Pence, he's weak, he's too weak. We should be strong, we got to go there with strength. I mean, he was
Well,
going,
he was wrong.
he
He
was
was
going,
wrong about
he was
Pence
going
and
rah,
putting
rah,
him
rah.
into a
And then he
position,
said,
and
I
putting
will,
Mike, hold on, and putting Mike Pence into a position like that was absolutely untenable. And I was shocked about that because there is no constitutional law, no
right,
constitutional rules whatsoever to allow Pence to overturn an election.
right.
That's
And any of the Republicans that didn't agree with him, he put them down. They're too weak. He was like Macho Man.
Well,
Listen,
I must say with the Republicans that they are flat-footed. Let me give you a little story. I have still friends in California who speak to me, and they thought it was very interesting that during the election, 2020 election, that they were never contacted by the Republicans. Supposedly, the game of the ground game of the Republicans was to knock on doors and what have you. That's baloney. They didn't do that. The hard work of a campaign, and I've worked on many campaigns, you go door to door and you bring your information, your candidate's information directly to the people. The Republicans were caught completely flat-footed. And I mean, to be listening to all of these various things in Georgia, well, no wonder the Democrats swept. No wonder. And I'm just, I don't know what to tell you about them. That's why I'm an independent. I am just stunned at
well,
that they assumed that the votes were all there. You can't do that. But the reason I'm talking to you today is that it's important at this point right now that we have a Democratic Senate and House of Representatives and a presidency. I'm now hearing the fact that people, and well-known people, are talking about cleansing the Trump revolution. I'm really not sure what that means, except I've heard that before historically, and we heard that in the 1930s. And that is of concern to me, cleansing. I don't understand why would we talk about cleansing 74 to 80 million Americans. It's as though we're not human, as though those people are not human. Well, they are human. They're Americans. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk with you today is we've got to come to some middle ground and to, for example, want to impeach him with less than 2 weeks to go. Come on.
well,
Winner.
I'm not sure about impeachment, but the Pelosi went to speak to the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know what powers does Trump have as far as the nuclear weapons. Does he have the power to launch them?
Who stopped all of the wars? He's the one that is taking our troops out of various places in America. He is the first president in decades not to get us involved in war. So why would he spend the next 2 weeks getting us involved in a war?
For spite.
I mean, it's political grandstanding.
For spite. But anyway,
absurd.
The point that I want to make, which let's go on from here. He's not going to be the president. Biden will be the president. But the thing is, even though that the Democrats, which I'm an independent, more leaning towards the Democratic issues. The Democrats have it's the Senate is 50-50, but not all the Democratic senators agree with Biden.
Oh, they'll toe the line, for God's sake.
No,
you must be joking.
No, there are a lot of things that's going to happen, and the House is less of a. The number one, the Democratic Party has two groups. You have the Biden group, which is central. You have, but you have the AOC group, who's very much into the left field, and she combines a lot of power there. She is part of the youth movement. And again, well, I don't know about you. You're still young. I'm not young anymore.
You're very kind.
But the youth movement, the people, I remember when I was, 20, 25, 30, my feelings were not with the old politicians who were 50, 60, 70 years old. It was a whole group of people. So I know I have to take a look at that group and see what they're expounding, because these are the people of the future. My future world might be, if I'm lucky, 10, 20 years, if we have a cure, if I get the vaccination. But
You're going to be waiting a long time in line. All the politicians are already lined up to get theirs, so we have to wait for ours.
The future is theirs.
Yeah.
So to poo-poo what they have in mind, to say, oh, that's, they're radicals. That's going to be the world. They're not radicals. They're not radical for their age.
Well, one thing I would ask you, since we are going socialist, what are the benefits to you and me?
Socialism, Social Security.
What else?
Big benefit. Unemployment, which is a big benefit. Social, taking big care of with the medicine, Medicare.
Okay.
That's socialism. What more do I need?
Well, I mean, that's not a whole lot. That's what we already have.
Okay, well,
I have to point out once again, with Social Security, we got a 1.3% increase in our Social Security. And I mean, that worked out to be, not a whole heck of a lot.
I know. So, I got the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, so what is going to be different about the socialism that we're going to be now?
Well, it's not the only thing which I agree, and it's not socialism, because we're a capitalistic country. The socialism is that there are certain government controls on big business. And you were talking about, I don't know whether it was on the air or not, but during the Democratic administration, the interest rates went up. No, that wasn't the Democrats. That was after, that was after Clinton, because the banks and the way they were charging rates came in, I think, in the Bush administrations, where the rates went up to 19, 20, 22% of the interest rates, especially on credit cards, which was at that point usury. It wasn't where Obama raised the rates for that. Obama, when he came in, the economy was in the tubes. We had one of the worst depressions there ever. And between him and Biden, they corrected that and put that on a basis. Now, whether
let's go on. So, what additional benefits is it going to be for socialism? Because we're definitely going to be going socialist.
What do you call
probably branching on communism? So, what are my benefits at this point right now?
What are your benefits now?
American?
What are your benefits? What are your benefits now?
Well, we're a capitalistic society.
We're going to be a capitalistic. It's going to be the. You're not going to get the where the rich people are going to give to the poor people. That's never going to happen. You're never going to happen. Bernie Sanders.
Well, wait a minute. Governor Cuomo and Bill de Blasio talked about wealth redistribution. And he talked about it specifically, that he plans on wealth redistribution. Now, the great thing about that is both of you and I are dirt poor. So we'll probably get.
We'll benefit. Well, I don't know. It's where these people have. I was just reading where the richest man in the world now is Elon Musk. He was now the richest man in the world. He took over Bezos' position.
Bezos, yeah. And he the reason that he is because the Chinese are supporting Tesla. He has lots of good things to say about Tesla. But I think that he's going along the ways of way he needs to. I mean, they're talking about no private property. It'll be like the song Imagine, I guess, with John Lennon, that will have, let's see.
Imagine all the people living in a world.
Yeah.
The problem is, I don't believe, I believe that you have to have a strong government. Because what happens is when you don't have a strong government, with the human nature, you had one religion annihilating the other religions. When the people have their own minds, it's like, what's the name of the book where the boys are stuck on an island?
Oh, yeah, Swiss Family Robinson.
No, it's a whole group of kids who are
Oh, okay,
on
yeah.
an island.
Anyway,
I forget it is, but basically they form their own governments, and they
Mhm.
form their government like a dictatorship,
Yeah.
like almost like a communist government, because no matter what we have, they're going to be the alpha people.
Mhm.
They're going to be people who are going to take over. They're going to be people who want to be the leaders. There's also a group of people who don't want to be the leaders. They want a nice life. Because if
Mhm.
they didn't want leaders, they wouldn't elect leaders because there are more of them. It's I would
Well,
say 90% of them. But the thing is, when you say socialism, it's like you're doing the boogeyman. It's a socialist. I'm not. I know you know what socialism is, but why would socialism lead into communism? In fact, communism would be a little what John Lennon said, where the government would wither away. There's no true form of communism that ever was. Because if you read the Communist Manifesto, in the last stage is where the government withers away and the people take over. But that's
well,
never.
the one thing I find to be very interesting is the fact, and that's one of the reasons that we left California as fast as we did. What we observed there was the class differentiation. And the Montecito people had their group of people that were coming in generally at 7 o'clock in the morning. And there was a long string of people coming in to service the Montecito people. And then at 5 or 6 o'clock, there'd be a long string of people walking out of Montecito. What really concerns me and what does continue to concern me is the clash of classes. I am very concerned about the economic warfare that is going on. I'm very concerned about the fact that, and I wish that Joe Biden would have said something differently. In one of his first speeches, I did catch it, where he talked about the fact that if the Capitol had BLM protesters, that they would have been treated completely differently. I don't know what that means, except as I recall, if BLM had breached the Capitol, they probably might have been invited to sit in, maybe in Pelosi's office, maybe in the Senate.
Well, okay.
I don't understand why we are bringing up such class warfare, why we are bringing up the fact of blacks and whites. And I mean, once again, I mean, am I supposed to be apologetic because I happen to be a white woman?
No,
Are
but
you apologetic because you're a white man?
take a look at some of the news stations. I mean, I know you and Fish are now off into the woods, enjoying nature and enjoy, which is
No,
great.
no, no. We're enjoying our life without having propaganda.
Right,
That's
and yeah, well, propaganda on both sides, but you can't avoid it. You can't take your head and stick it in the sand like an ostrich. I mean,
I'm not sticking my head in the sand. My problem is that as a former news reporter myself, and I did very well for the 15, 20 years that I was a news reporter. And then after that, I was a forensic private investigator. I look at facts and I look at the information. I don't need to be preached at. And when I listen to CNN and MSNBC and all of these stations, take the truth and warp it from anything from Trump to COVID to the economy. It concerns me, and it concerns me that they don't seem to want to give American people the facts. And I don't know. So what are you saying? Which news station should I be listening to now?
okay. Basically, what you should be doing is listening to Fox, listen to CNN, listen to the networks, read the newspapers, and decide for yourself. You listen to all of them. That's what an intelligent person does. He doesn't believe in one source, especially now. I mean, I don't know if there are any news stations anymore. They're all op-ed, they're all opinions.
Yeah,
There are few of them, even in, I like Chris Wallace, and he's in Fox. I like certain things. I like Shepard Smith when he was in Fox. Now he's in some other news station. There are people who try to balance the news. If you listen to Sean Hannity, forget about it. I mean, he would he's sort of in Trump's hip pocket. When he says something, the next day Trump is parroting.
What are you guys going to do without Trump? Who are you going to blame now?
Biden. It's gonna be Biden, but Trump, I think, sort of.
You guys are going to shrivel up and die. Nobody, no boogeyman to point to, no crazy person to point.
I guarantee
what are you guys going to do? Biden, I loved his campaigning from the basement, and I love the fact that when he got out, he had a big 2 or 3 people who attended his rallies.
Well, I love the fact
Absurd.
that I love that Biden acknowledged the fact that there's a COVID-19 going around, that you have to, especially at his age, which he's 78, 77, 78, that he has to be very careful, and that he wasn't like doing open air rallies like Trump was doing, where the next day or the next week thousands of people would be getting infected. He did something.
Yeah, like there were like 2 or 3 people outside his rally point begging to get in. Oh, Malcolm, that's ridiculous.
No,
Bottom line is, with the COVID vaccine, why is it that all of this has been delivered? I think they said 1.7 million. I don't know what it was, but only 30% has been administered. 30% of the vaccines have been administered. And that's just absurd. Why would that be?
Why would that
be back?
Because
why are they holding back?
We're right. Each individual state is in charge of their own distribution. Most of the individual states have no money. They're broke. So there's no central point. This has to be taken over. This can't be 50 separate states doing their own thing and making their own decision. This is a national. This is a national crisis.
When you talk to CVS and Walgreens and Walmart, they're all sitting there on their thumbs waiting for this to be distributed, and it's not being distributed.
Right, and that's a state.
People in California. I've talked to people in Montana. I have talked to people in Texas. Everybody is sitting on it. And I think it's amazing. Some of the health workers, 30% of the health workers have decided they don't want to take the vaccine. Well, heck, give it to me.
Yeah.
Give it to you.
Deborah, but I have a question. Who's in charge of the distribution?
The states are in charge.
Right. So it's each individual. Do you think that there should be a strong central government, since it's a national problem? It's not an individual state problem. This is a national, actually it's a worldwide problem, but it's a.
So you're telling me that the states can't handle it?
Right, they haven't. Number one.
Have the vaccine for crying
I know,
out
but they don't have the
syringes.
They don't have
everything that they need.
They don't have the distribution. They don't have the people to distribute. Well, why isn't it given out? You tell me.
I don't know. I can't seem to find it. There's no news from any of the news stations. Nobody seems to know.
Excuse me, you're not listening to the right news station. It's a constant thing. The constant thing is that there's no central authority, that the Trump, for the last, since he hasn't been reelected, is out playing golf.
He's not playing golf.
Oh, not now, but he was.
Like I say, what are you guys going to do when Trump is gone? You're not going to be able to talk about it.
Don't worry. The people are going to get on Biden, because there's going to be a group of people saying.
No, they won't.
Yeah, I bet you. There's a group of people saying.
They won't at all. Actually, they will treat Biden exactly the way they did with Obama.
Well, Obama, they treated well.
There were never questions asked.
They didn't treat Obama well.
Oh, are you joking? Oh my God. They loved Obama.
He didn't let.
It was a love fest with Obama.
What happened?
What
happened when Merrick Garland was nominated for the Supreme Court? What happened? Who blocked that? On his last year, when Garland was nominated, right?
He had no standing to be able to nominate Merrick Garland.
Well, why didn't he have any standing?
That's fine. He's now the Attorney General. And now they'll get a chance to bury all the information coming on the Durham report.
I know, but
Nobody will pay for any of the stuff that happened. It's just, I think and I'm very, very glad that Trump was elected when he did, because he has revealed the corruption. And when he talked about the swamp truly is the swamp. You know what the swamp is? The swamp basically is an entity that accepts no new ideas, no new water comes into the swamp. It just sits there and stews. And that's exactly what Washington is. And Washington is not addressing problems of average Americans like you and me. So I submit that average Americans like you and me need to come up with solutions. And that's the whole reason I'm talking to you, Malcolm, because you know what? You're not stupid. You're a smart guy. And I don't care what you say about being old. Guess what? You've got wisdom, and so do I. And I think at the point right now, we need to hold accountable our lawmakers and get them moving to be able to represent America.
Okay, a question for you, which, by the way, our half hour was just up.
Oh, sorry.
The question for you is, what will you say if now, when Trump is out, that all the lawsuits and the investigations are going to come out, what he did in New York, they have, the income tax evasion, or the he has something with the property taxes that he kept on going up and down.
Yeah, what about it?
Do you think that he should be prosecuted? And if he does,
well, if he broke sweetie pie, if he broke the law, he needs to be prosecuted. It's very simple.
But do you think that you're going to agree with the facts that if he did break the law, or are you going to say it's persecution? It's no, like third world country.
Bottom law, but you have to believe in due process. You have to believe in the law. Okay. So if he did something wrong, he needs to be prosecuted. Okay. To submit after 4 years, they could not find Russian collusion. They could not find any money that passed to him illegally, as unfortunately our president-elect, Joe Biden, had money passed to his family from China. And it does concern me that that's not been an issue. China has bought the Biden family, and we're going to have to unfortunately live with that. And I'm sorry that the news media felt that they needed to protect Joe Biden. We also needed to know whether or not he has mental issues. He, in fact, did have dementia issues. He's had brain aneurysms. We don't even know about it. But be that as it may, Joe Biden is our president. He's my president. And unlike the Democrats who said, he's not my president, Joe Biden is my president.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Democrat or Republican, I believe in America. And I do hope that Joe Biden will go ahead and be more even-handed rather than talking about BLM and talking about all of the things that white people have done wrong. We're a good country.
Well, okay, we have a lot to talk about. Because it was funny, just a story. I had a good friend that was Cambodian. And she was in Cambodia during the war. At the end of the war, she was a kid, and
she told to be there in the end of the war.
Yeah, and she tells the story how I forget what administration was in there, but 1970, the Viet Cong were going into Cambodia to hide, in the villages, and we wanted to bomb the villages, and they asked, I think Prince Sihanouk was the head of Cambodia, and they asked Sihanouk, they said, okay, the Viet Cong there, and for defensive purposes, we have to bomb your village. And Sihanouk said, excuse the expression, you're out of your damn mind. You're going to kill innocent people, villagers. And we say, no. So what did the US government do with the aid of the CIA? They arranged the overthrow of the Cambodian government of Sihanouk. And they put in someone that was, let them bomb it, a guy named Lon Nol, General Lon Nol.
Yep.
And for 5 years, they bombed.
Yep.
They bombed Cambodia to kill the Viet Cong. Of course, they killed a lot of Cambodians. Then in 1975, the U.S. decided, never ending war. It wasn't a war, it was a peace action or something, but it was never ending. We're going to bug out. So 75, they bugged out. What happened to Cambodia? The government collapsed because it was unpopular. And of course, then they had a dictator come in that killed, I think, 3 million people. But it's not, I mean, I like to look at the US, in rose-colored glasses, but we've done a lot of horrible things. And not
Then
that
you must really like Trump, because Trump was the one who didn't get us involved in any extraneous wars. And in fact, he wants to bring our military home, which I fully support. We
right,
should
but
be out there trying to impose all of this. America, we need to come home. We need to take care of our own, and we need to heal one another. This is a matter of healing our hearts,
yeah,
Malcolm.
yeah,
And
but
normal people like you and me, we're the ones who's going to be
but
pressuring our lawmakers to do what's right.
but you have to realize it's not our country. Let's build up the wall around our country. It's an international country. It's an international world now. You're talking about whether China is going to take over. I remember in the 60s and 70s, the joke was that the Japanese can't bomb Los Angeles. Why? Because they own too much property there.
Mhm.
The same thing now with the Chinese and the different groups, and they say the Chinese want to take over the world. Didn't we want to take over the world as the USA? But it's much more complicated, because right now anything that happens is international, and you have to have international, be involved with other groups of people. And sometimes they make it's sort of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. There's
But
so much you have to
unfortunately,
work.
we have China that has the avowed goal of world domination, and they started it by releasing the COVID virus.
Okay, well,
The virus at this point right now essentially could be World War III. You know who the casualties are? Not soldiers anymore. It's ordinary people like you and me. We're the casualties.
well, three, well,
The other casualties are the small business people. Remember small business people in 2008? That was the middle class that got ousted from their jobs. They started small businesses. Now there's a war on small business. And I got to tell you, you in California, you are killing small business people. And those small business people are people like you and me. You and me.
Deborah, I know the future's in front of us, and we're going to have Joe Biden as a president, and there's going to be lots and lots of controversy because I mean, right now, even as we said, the Democratic Party is broken up into it's not one homogeneous type of group. They're people from the left part of it to the right part of it to the centrists, and everybody has to work together.
And they need to start representing average, normal Americans like you and me. If we can come to compromise, they can come to compromise.
Well,
They can shrill voices talking about cleansing the Trump people. That's not the way you do things. You come to compromise.
well,
And that's how we do it, Malcolm, because that's how we are discussing things.
well, as I said, I'm not want to cleanse the Trump people. I want to cleanse a lot of what he did. We'll talk about that at a later time. We could sit here for hours. I don't know if the listening audience would really want it. But anyway, we'll get together sometime early next week.
That sounds great. Have a great day.
I want to hear how you are going to change your lifestyle, as we talked about off camera, about going back to the simple things of life, which I love. I mean, I love to do it. I do it when I meditate, and I know you do that also. But anyway, have a great week.
Sounds good.
So send my love to Fish.
You bet. My love to Anna.
Okay, I'll speak to you later. Bye.
Okay.